down. Oh, my God. Nathan McCreary, Brandon Joseph. Coach Ron is apparently trying on a tuxedo currently that may or may not fit for his son's wedding. So he's got family stuff to do, but it's me and BJ, the original podcast hosts. BJ, wearing your FSU stuff. I don't see you often with Florida State on. What's going on? Oh, hang on. I muted you. Oh, are you muted? It doesn't look like you're muted. Muted on sound levels. Oh, my God. I'm going to check you right over here. Hang on. It looks like I don't want you to be muted. Hey, what's up, going Ols? Steve McKenzie in the chat. G6FB247 is here. Brandon, I don't know how to get you unmuted. Let me see if I can get you here. We're professionals, by the way. If you didn't know. How about now, Brandon?
You got me now.
There he goes. There he goes.
There we go.
So FSU, what's up with that?
Yeah, my sisters are graduates of FSU. Well, one's a graduate already. The other one's about to graduate. So, of course, I did Mike Martin's baseball camp way back in the day. Way back in the day. So, just.
God, love him. Mike, by the way.
Repping the Knowles.
So at Georgia Tech, they have Danny Hall. Mike Martin at Florida State was a legendary baseball figure. And if you don't understand or don't know about college baseball coaches, Mike Martin is one of the best. And he passed away a couple years ago. And that's awesome. You got a chance to be a part of that. That's fantastic. Brandon Haddock.
Really cool.
Brandon Haddock in the house. Thank you guys for letting us take a week off. I think a couple of us did a vacation kind of thing, but let's go ahead and get into the show as we're going to have some FCS news, preseason top 25 according to me, and I'll let Brandon argue if he disagrees with it. Some FCS conference outlooks and a big question, FCS big question, to kind of go to that and see how that goes. Just kind of a football, general football knowledge. We'd love to see chat get involved. Hey, if you're watching live, man, don't forget to comment. We'd love to have you on board as well. And also like and subscribe. That is a huge part of helping us out, move the ball forward with our with our channel, just kind of get some subscribers going. But one thing I want to get to, Brandon, is I got married this past week. Look at there. Oh, wait, there. Oh, and you're muted again. God, what the heck is... Hang on a second. Hang on. Muted, not muted. I will mute. Hang on. Wait for it. Okay, try now.
Yeah, now it looks like I'm unmuted.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, and that's not AI generated, despite the fact that it kind of looks AI generated. That is not AI generated.
That is not AI generated. That's my sweet Elizabeth and I, Tybee. We had planned on getting married later next year. Thank you guys, appreciate it in the chat. But she said, "Why don't we just elope?" And I'm like, "Save money? Okay." I'm gonna marry her and be with her forever, so might as well start now. And as very famously, I think it was who said it when Harry met Sally. When you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible. So there you go. So we jumped in. Thank you guys, appreciate it, Brandon and Kobe and Steven in the chat. I'm going to try and get this off the screen, Brandon, and then bring in you again and see if it mutes you for some reason. No, it does not look like it is. Okay, so this is what we're going to go to. And up next, we've got, let me get that off of there. And here we go. Oh, God, what is going on? FCS News. Here we go. It's been a while. Okay, so some FCS news we want to get to. The first thing is Sacred Heart is going to be joining the CAA starting in 2026 officially. They won't play until 2027, my understanding. So your X should come. It should be. I know it should. I did G6. It really should promote more content. And we tell people all the time is we're all full scheduled people, and we do this because we love the FCS. So we definitely want to be more active and proactive on X. So I'm reading the chat, by the way. You can't comment. We'll pop some of these comments up as we go. But thank you, G6 Football 247 for the constructive criticism. Anyway, Brandon, Sacred Heart. This is a program that's been around FCS for a long time. Jumped out of the NEC into an independent. Now they're going to the CAA. It just goes to how different we think of the CAA now as 5 years ago.
Yeah, and we talked about this, maybe the first or second episode that we did of the season. What was the CAA going to do? They needed to all make some changes in there as well. I mean, listen, conference really, it's all about putting yourself in the best position for now. I don't think any of this, these marriages are all temporary. Yours is forever. These are temporary. And I think that's what's going on here. It's just a relationship of convenience at this point. And you're looking for your best path forward until something changes. And, that's why you can't really read too much into this. I think, a lot of what people are saying, and the more and more, you aggregate content from really knowledgeable people, including lawyers. We're on the verge potentially of another mad dash of realignment potentially.
Right.
And that could come due to, the Senate bill. If that ever gets voted on and passed, then that would be a finite window to announce changes, although now there's supposed to be revisions to allow freedom of movement in there. But you're getting a lot of people that are antsy, and all these TV deals, and the SWAC just did one, I believe, that runs about the same window of 2030 to 2031. So I think everybody's just trying to position themselves for something that fits in right now, knowing that in full well that in 4 to 5 years' time, they will potentially be an uprooting of what we see right now. For the CAA, they need competitive teams in there. They need whatever they can get at this point. So I don't think necessarily it's a bad move for either side right now. We'll have to see how this plays out. I mean, if the CAA continues kind of shifting, more towards that northeastern type of grab that they want to go for. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of overlapping footprint there, so I don't know how successful they're going to be in that realm. I think the South is pretty much locked up, and there's not really, no disrespect to the teams that are still there, but the Southeast has lost a lot of schools to FBS football. I mean, all of them over the period of time have left, and now you're looking to reload. So I don't think, for the CAA, which was the Colonial Athletic Association, they can't live in that model. So I think they're just trying to grab anybody else in the northeastern corridor to add into their conference.
We're going to take a look at the CAA outlook next week, but the current teams for this year: Bryant, Campbell, Elon, Hampton, Maine, Monmouth, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Sacred Heart. They are going to be in this year, by the way. Sacred Heart, Stony Brook, Towson Tigers, and Albany. So that's 13 teams in, supposedly maybe adding another team next year. So we shall see how that goes. It's going to be interesting. And with that, we're going to talk about FCS eligibility. Some news came out that Alabama A&M, Florida A&M, and Mississippi Valley State are not eligible because of their academic progress rate. And that means they're not eligible for the FCS playoffs, which I don't know that means all that much, because a lot of those teams,
their goal wasn't to go to the FCS playoff anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. But in 2025, the NCAA amended their reclassification policy, allowing teams to shorten their reclassification process. St. Thomas, East Texas A&M, which was the Texas A&M Commerce, before. is going to allow them to become eligible sooner. Lindenwood and Stonehill will become eligible this year for the playoffs, and Mercyhurst and West Georgia will become eligible in time for the 2026 season. So this coming year. So I'm sorry, Lindenwood and Stonehill was last year. Mercyhurst and West Georgia will be eligible. No, that was right, for the 2027 season for Mercyhurst and West Georgia. Stonehill, Lindenwood this year. I'm getting it right. So eligibility, yeah, the teams that are in the SWAC and the MEAC and the HBCUs that kind of go for those celebration bowls, it's not that big of a policy, but it is kind of a punch in the gut to get an academic slap on the hand.
Yeah, I mean, when you're essentially just playing for your conference, and that's the thing. So I don't think necessarily it's a big deal for them. I think a lot of teams have dealt with this APR situation. There's some talk of that APR reform that can't be. They've already started to go away from that in the FBS for bowl selection. Remember, it used to be if you didn't have enough 6-win teams, you can go to 5-win teams based on APR. At that point, they've started to go away from that. I think that's with the transient nature of college football, it's going to be a hard thing, I think, for the NCAA to kind of justify and hold teams or schools' feet to the fire over your graduation rate, your academic progress rate, when you are bringing guys in who are there on their own volition for a semester, a year, or whatever, and then they're bouncing across all sports. So I think that's going to be a point for revision there. And again, I think you can penalize these teams under it, and they're not necessarily going to fight it because they weren't going to the FCS playoffs to begin with. I struggle to see, and I don't know if that necessarily would apply to a Celebration Bowl, but that counts as a postseason game, but I don't know if they govern it the same as they do the playoffs and actual bowl games. So I don't necessarily see it being a big deal for these three programs. As far as the reclassification amendment, we kind of talked about this, at the latter part of last season when the grumblings of North Dakota State wanting to move up happened. I mean, if you want to move up and you want to play at a higher level, it is well within your right to I feel personally get drilled at that higher level as soon as possible and reach all the achievements. I mean, I think it's really asinine that for years that, hey, St. Thomas wants to move up. They have to go through a 4-year reclassification period to move up.
Right.
To play at a higher standard. And granted, year one, they would have made the playoffs. If that rule was in effect, they would have made the playoffs year one. I just think I get the spirit of the rule. The spirit of the rule was back in, I believe, in the 70s or 80s. You were allowed at that point to be a Division I basketball program, and then you could be a Division II football program. You could be a Division I program, FBS, FCS. And teams were playing these games where they were, hey, we're going to drop down to the FCS because we're not very good FBS, and we're going to dominate and we're going to win there. And they came up with this whole reclassification model to say, hey, you can't win things because we don't want you, either if you're at the FCS level, to load up and make it easier to load up and be successful and then jump up to the FBS and win, and vice versa. I just think in today's era, it's really unnecessary thing. If you want to go do a drop down method and say, hey, you can't drop down and try to win something because you would have more talent, you'd have more resources, that's fine and well. But for everybody else moving up, just let them play, let them earn their way, whether it's, the schools coming from Division 2 and 3 to the FCS level, or FCS teams going to the FBS. And these things, it's a meritocracy. They have a way of working themselves out. Sacramento State and North Dakota State are going to get a welcome into the FBS, unlike they have seen in the FCS. Right. All these schools that have moved up recently, West Georgia, Mercyhurst, Rio Grande Valley, they are learning that it's not just easy on paper to go up there and go, hey, we may have the resources, we may have the facilities. It's still a challenge, and let them meet that challenge. And most importantly, it makes it easier for these coaches to retain players, to say, hey, we will be able to play for something moving up. I think that's a huge thing that the NCAA, amongst a lot of things that they need to fix, I'm glad they got that one correct.
Yeah, up next, we're going to talk about the media days that are underway. But Brandon Haddock has a good question. Got the same amount of scholarships now, so why the rules? Why there's still rules? And I think you're starting to see, Brandon, as the NCAA lost all these lawsuits that got filed against them, you're starting to see some of these things peel away, and the NCAA becoming more amenable to these different levels because they don't want to get sued. They don't want to lose. They kind of want to be more athlete friendly and program friendly, which probably means money friendly to them. So that's probably why those rules are still there. We'll see how that goes. But you're starting to see these things get peeled away because of how poorly the NCAA has managed the football programs, or I guess the sanctioning.
For eternity, it was, we make the rules, you follow the rules, and there is no room for negotiation in there. It sounds like a lot of governments that probably don't get co-signed very much in the world. And now we're starting to see that none of that holds up in court. The NCAA, I think, I said it last year, they were 0-4 as many lawsuits have come against them. I think they may have won one that has stood.
Yeah.
I think there's one or two. So they are maybe one hand versus hundreds, maybe thousands at this point. We may be in the thousands plus that they've been sued. They have lost the vast majority. They're batting like 0.5% on all this. So I don't know if they're amenable to a lot of things, or rather it's forced change rather than willful change. But yeah, we're starting to see a lot more common sense take place across these guidelines. And I think, you start leaving it up to, and listen, the NCAA can take a poison pill if they want to and just say, hey, no rules, you do whatever you want. And that will force people to go, okay, we need rules. Mm-hmm. But the NCAA is also in a tough spot. You make a rule that everybody agrees with until it affects your program. Then all of a sudden you are the one going against it. It's Brendan Sorsby. You make a rule that everybody, hey, we suspend people for gambling on football games. There have been 6 of them before Brendan Sorsby. And then all of a sudden, Texas A&M was on board with all of them, even one that happened to an Iowa State football player. They play in the same conference. They were so cool with the Iowa State quarterback being kicked out of football for a year. Then it comes to their player, and some rich guy named Cody Campbell decides, no, we don't like that rule anymore. So now the university has to have an awkward hostage press conference where they're all sitting at a conference table like, we think that he should play. It's stupid, and that's the whole problem. Like, common sense, it shouldn't be forced upon the NCAA, but I guess we're at that point, so whatever.
Yeah, we definitely are. Talking about media days, they are underway. Here is the schedule. As you've seen, Missouri Valley football and SWAC media days have already occurred. OVC's is today. We're going to preview the OVC, so we're going to talk about what's come out of them when we get to that segment. And UAC, July 21st, as well as MEAC and Southern Conference, Southland and CAA, the 22nd to 23rd. Big Sky, 26th and 27th, July 27th, 28th for Pioneer League. And Patriot League, July 29th through 30th. And NEC, August 3rd. Most of those are going to have some kind of access on ESPN Plus, I believe. And our friend Kendra Sheehan was the host for the Missouri Valley Football Conference. I sent her the link. She may be joining us, maybe not, this afternoon, and to talk about that. But we'll go ahead and look at some of those media days that have already occurred, Brandon. And it's SWAC media days. It came out that the preseason poll really was a most important thing that came out of that, with Alabama State, Jackson State, and Bethune-Cookman 1, 2, and 3 there in the East. And the SWAC West, Prairie View, no surprise there. Grambling State, Alcorn State was also in that mix. So a little bit of a surprise, the polling wise, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, Alabama State has a really good quarterback.
Andrew Body.
He's back with the program. I think Jackson State and what TC Taylor has done with that program has done phenomenal things of keeping, that talent coming in. They got talent before Deion got there. I think that's a common misconception. They have good facilities there. I'm curious to see, and that's something that, if they wanted to remodel the stadium, they wanted to get more facilities in there, how that was going along. Last time I saw, they were working through that with the local jurisdictions on getting the funding and all that in place. But Jackson State, there'll be a team up there. That Alabama State Jackson State game will probably be the one to decide who represents the East as the champion there. But yeah, I think for Prairie View, they're probably the best of that West Division. I would love to just see them come together, one division, one conference, and just figure out the two best teams in there. Let them play for a championship. Winner goes to Celebration Bowl.
Yeah, I love that too. Alabama State, the overall preseason favorite. You also have the first game under the helm of Marshall Faulk is going to be that televised Cricket MEAC SWAC challenge game, which is going to be fun there at Legion's Field. So good stuff. ESPN signed a new rights deal, so you're going to get the chance to see all the SWAC games that you want there on ESPN platforms behind a paywall for the most part, but you'll also have some of those on the big networks as well. Someone mentioned Kendra. What happened? I think when the WAC, she was being WAC in UAC, the decision was made, and they went a different route with the media. I don't want to speak out of school, but she's still doing a lot of stuff, and she's going to land on her feet. She's super, super talented, and we love it. I talked to her today, and she's definitely wants to be a part of her show as the season goes on. She's looking for a place to kind of to land, and again, talented people find places, and so
4-person show every week. Let's do it.
I know. Let's go. No doubt about it. Up next, the Missouri Valley Football Conference Media Days. No surprise here. No NDSU. SU was the story. South Dakota State picked up the number one spot. Illinois State, Youngstown State, North Dakota, South Dakota, Southern Illinois, Northern Iowa, Indiana State, and Murray State were the preseason poll finishers. You see the 5 teams that got first place votes. South Dakota State got most of them. Illinois State a handful. North Dakota, South Dakota, and Southern Illinois. Youngstown State didn't get any first place votes, which is a little bit of a head scratcher because if you look at the players and honors, Bo Brungard and Michael Wells, they're in those preseason lists for Walter Payton and Buck Buchanan Award. So MVFC, Brandon, looks funny without that NDSU up there. I got to be honest with you. It's weird.
There's probably a lot of people who normally vote on the preseason poll were like, oh yeah, just it's natural reflex just to go North Dakota State.
Yeah,
can't do that anymore. Actually, have to put some thought into who the preseason favorite is. But yeah, it is expected that South Dakota State should be that one line there. They have to prove it. They have to earn it. This is a program that has a lot to improve. We talked about it in earlier episodes. Yes, they're bringing a lot back, but it wasn't very good. And I know people say they were young. They were people that doesn't, game 12, 13 of the year, being young isn't an excuse anymore. Week 12, 13, coaches will say being young isn't an excuse anymore. Those guys had plenty of reps there. And when their quarterback went down, very few guys performed, especially on defense. And I don't care that the head coach took a lot of guys with him going up to the FBS. Those guys were there. They were in place. They were expected to perform, and they didn't. And I think Dan Jackson will be the first to have to raise his hand and put that on himself in the first-year head coach. I expect a lot of that to get better. I think Dan Jackson knows he has to get better there, especially on the defensive side of the ball, his forte, or else – can you imagine if we had a similar outcome, especially with North Dakota State not being in the MVC anymore, and they are not winning it? They are struggling. They're losing 3-4 games. That will be a very uncomfortable situation for that coaching staff and be very uncomfortable for the fans there. But they are the most talented team, I firmly believe, in the Valley. I expect them to finish in that 1 seed there. And, Youngstown State, I get the sentiment for Illinois State, a very feel-good program last year in the run they made. I do not see how they replicate that this year. I think Youngstown State is probably the second best team in there. And then, I don't see much difference between Illinois State, North Dakota, South Dakota, maybe Southern Illinois in there. But I think that gaggle there will be a huge fun thing to watch how it sorts out.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that as we'll jump into our top 25, basically my top 25, and what I think it should look like preseason. And you see Montana State, Montana, UC Davis, 1, 2, and 3, all out of the Big Sky. South Dakota State, they're number 4. Rhode Island, North Dakota. Tarleton State, Youngstown State above Illinois State. Villanova, South Dakota, Stephen F. Austin, who's had a fantastic recruiting season the last couple of years. Tennessee Tech, can they repeat? Lehigh returning a bunch of pieces. Southern Illinois, Austin P. Northern Arizona, Lamar, Idaho State, Yale, Abilene Christian, Southeast Louisiana, UT Martin, Mercer, and Monmouth. They got really difficult. I'd say 11 through 25, Brandon. Those top teams are, I believe, pretty solidified. You can switch them, but I believe, just like as you were saying, watch Youngstown State. It's going to be really tough for Illinois State to repeat. Brock Spack is a tremendous coach. They're gonna have a lot of returning defensive pieces, but their offense is going to look very, very different without Rittenhouse and some pieces left. We'll talk about that as it goes on. But your thoughts on my top 25?
Yeah, I think, you see the space at the bottom after 26, that void. You could take that space and move it up after 2 and have 1, 2, then a gap, and then we go 3 through 25 there.
Right.
Because I think that's what it boils down to. I think we're looking at the leaders out front. We're looking at the pace setters. That's going to be Montana State and Montana. Montana State has earned it. And what they're bringing back, they've earned it there. They deserve to be on that one line. That second seed Montana, I think they're the second best team. Could UC Davis be better than South Dakota State? I think based on the potential of failure for South Dakota State, or kind of the criticism I had, yeah, I think it's fair if we start them in that 4th spot. But I think that will be a team that you can look at 2-3 games into the season and go, okay, South Dakota State, they may be the 3rd best team. UC Davis, I think they're going to have a really tough schedule. This is kind of like what we talked about for the Missouri Valley for years and years, where, you can see a team that's pretty darn good, but just the gauntlet they have to go through. Well, that's UC Davis. They may be a pretty good team, but the fact that they have to play Montana State, things like that may hurt them across the course of the season in the Big Sky, while South Dakota State may have I don't want to say an easier path, but a lighter path.
We're going to jump right into the Big Sky outlook since we're kind of talking about them. And as these teams break down, you've got Montana State, obviously primed to be that Big Sky champion once again. Post-Houck era. Yeah, go ahead, Brandon. Post-Houck era, starting in Montana. New leadership, new identity. You return some big pieces. Kelly Ayotte's back. Eli Gilman's back. By the way, if you haven't checked out the FCS Edge with Craig Haley, does a great interview with Eli Gilman talking about, he's an award winner that stayed at the FCS programs. One of the only, I think, Jerry Rice Award winner to stay in the FCS. Most of them have jumped, and he basically said, listen, I'm going to make money whether I'm in the NFL or doing NIL or whatever. He wants to own a luxury car dealership if football doesn't work out for him. That's pretty freaking cool. But he's from Minnesota. I know.
Don't we all?
I don't even know what luxury car means. Does that mean Tesla or Aston Martin or Rolls Royce?
Yeah. Back in the day, it was a Buick.
That's right, no doubt. Yeah, Pontiac and Cadillac, and but listen, good head on his shoulders, some big pieces. I just always feel like when the coaching change happens, and he says they're doing Montana things still there under the new head coach. Montana doing Montana things, that's fine, but it still feels like there's going to be some kind of bump in the road. UC Davis, Aggies, and I think this is their time again. Gabato Jr.'s returning. This is kind of his final season. They've got other players. It's their final season. You wonder if this is the season that UC Davis can step up. Listen, I love Idaho State. I think they are a very, very good team. Cody Hawkins did some great things. He's rebuilding that program. I think they're on an upward trajectory. And I threw in Southern Utah in there because you wonder how they fit into the Big Sky. Utah Tech and Southern Utah coming in. We like Delane Fitzgerald, what he's done there at Southern Utah. They've got a lot of transfers, but this is a big step. So just kind of looking at this, the overall outlook, Brandon, Montana State, I see this in the chat, Montana State wins Big Sky easily from Brandon Haddock. You agree with that?
Yeah, I think they are probably clear cut above. I would be shocked if they didn't win the Big Sky. By no means will it be. I don't think it necessarily will be easy, but I think the talent will show. They give me vibes of. Do you remember? When was it? Was it like 5 years ago? Almost 4 or 5 years ago, when I sat up here every week and I said South Dakota State's just going to run through everybody.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very similar for Montana State, but I think they will have a hiccup along the road. I think they will have a game where it is late in the third quarter and they may be trailing or up one possession and the other team is driving there. I don't necessarily see it, from start to finish them running away with it, but I think they will be very, very, very talented there. Montana will be very interesting to watch. I mean, we always say it with these first year head coaches, there will be hiccups, there will be bumps, managing things you never had to manage before. I don't know. I understand you want to do Montana things, and Dan Jackson said the same thing. It's about South Dakota. We're going to be the same South Dakota, and it doesn't go well. I almost hate when a coach says that, because you can't do the same things you were before. Coach Houck is a very mythical figure there. He has a lot of cachet. And it's almost like, back in John Shire do. Let's just use that for example. He's a very good head coach. He couldn't do things the same way Mike Krzyzewski can do them. Kalen DeBoer at Alabama can't do the same thing Saban did there. You can't go in there and you can probably say, hey, there's a standard that we like to play, but you're not going to necessarily replicate that standard. You have to find a way to adapt and bring yourself up to the standard. So a little concerning there, but I just think they have a lot of talent there. And there shouldn't be that big of a fall off there. Maybe I'm just not as sold on UC Davis and what they can do there, but yeah, now's an opportunity for there. There's a big glaring hole for 4 or 5 in the best teams overall. Maybe UC Davis can supplant themselves in there and take a hole. I'm a big fan of Cody Hawkins and what he's able to do there at Idaho State. I'll be interested to see, because I've heard there's a lot of people that will come knocking on him if they have another great offensive year. He will be a very interesting name, not for necessarily a head coaching level position at the FBS, but for a coordinator with a potentially defensive coach that wants to hand over the keys to an offense. He could be a guy that garners a lot of interest at the next level.
Yeah, Idaho State scored 396 points last year. They ended the season on a 4-game win streak. That's all Big Sky competition, by the way. And that's just 2 touchdowns behind UC Davis and Tim Plow, what he's done there at the Aggies for UC Davis. And I agree with Stephen McKenzie that UC Davis logo is it's one of my favorite, without question. All right, I think that's a wrap for Big Sky. I think it's kind of the easiest one. This might be the second easiest one. Yale and Harvard, the only Ivy League teams that are, I think, in competition for anything going. Yale returning their quarterback, Dante Reno. They do lose Pitzenberger, who pushed them past Youngstown State during the playoffs, but they're going to reload again. And Harvard, they return Xavion Baskin, the leading rusher from 2025. They do lose their quarterback, Jaden Craig, however, so they're going to have to pick up some experience there at the quarterback position. But for the Ivy League, if you look at the other schools, Brandon, I just don't see anybody touching these two teams, Yale and Harvard, once again.
Yeah, my mom is an alum of Cornell there. They're trash. Sorry, go Big Red. The chick from Harry Potter went to Brown. That's about all you got there.
Yeah.
Penn, Quaker Oats guy probably went to Penn. That's why there. I got nothing else for anybody else in the Ivy. Yale, Harvard, when they play, that will determine the Ivy League. I lean towards Yale in there. I just think they bring back a very good quarterback in Dante Reno. I think they bring back a lot of good talent along the line there. And yeah, we could get into, maybe coaching feels a little bit. I don't want to say better, but I think more football oriented, not like football is a secondary thing, which you see a lot of these Ivies. You get some pretty good coaches, but honestly, if you plug and play them somewhere else, they're more position coaches and things like that. So they rely a lot on, okay, offense handle this, that, and the other. You got a football coach there.
Yeah.
And I think the vibe is going to be a little bit different for Yale there, and I think the expectation will be different for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and it will be fun to watch the quarterback battle, but it is kind of up in the air between Dante Torres and Sam Kaiser for the QB1 for Harvard, and that always kind of shakes the ground on what they can do. So Harvard and Yale is our outlook for the Ivy League. Up next, we're going to take a look at the MEAC, and the Delaware State under the head coach
Deshaun Jackson. Yeah.
Thank you, Deshaun Jackson. His first name just escaped me. Was so much fun to watch last year. They're poised, but South Carolina State is always a challenge. They replaced key offensive pieces at quarterback and running back. They still have some impressive transfers. That's what winning can do for you, Brandon, is people start taking notice of your program and you want to go be a winner and take home some trophies or put your name on a trophy. And that's what South Carolina State rather is doing with their continuing just being that team that comes at the end of the season, just punches people in the mouth. But watch out for Delaware State. Not only the best looking team in the FCS, they're starting to get some reputation and some expectation on them.
Yeah, I think people were shocked, legitimately, when you had Mike Vick and Deshaun Jackson come in there. And Mike Vick, I think he was operating with I don't want to say compared to Delaware State. I mean, I think they were operating with less than even others in the HBCU ranks. I think, Mike Vick was operating with a little bit less there. I think Delaware State had a lot more buy-in to Deshaun Jackson, and he lived up to the hype. And I think surprisingly so. Everybody looked at what he was able to do with that program in that first year and go, wow, this is a legitimate football team, a legitimate coaching staff. I think Michael Vick kind of figured it out towards the end of the season. The first couple of weeks, I mean, we talked about it before the season started last year. He was going to be confused to be a head coach.
Yeah.
And he was confused as a head coach. I think the difference was that was the first time Michael Vick was a true coach of anything. Deshaun Jackson was coaching high school ball. So listen, not the same, but at least you have the headset on, you know how to manage the clock and do all that. There were things that he had to learn on the fly, but they came out, the Hornets did, and they were a competitive team, and they looked like a well put together football team. The tough part is you have a program in South Carolina State that I don't care if you lose quarterback, running back. They do it year after year after year, and Chennis Berry's the head coach now. And then before that, it was Oliver Pugh. Year after year after year. I don't care if you give them a bag of thumbtacks. They're going to turn that into something that can work on a football field at some point. And I think that's just credit to the culture there. They don't. And South Carolina is not a quote unquote talent rich state in terms of football talent. But you're also in the Southeast, and you're going, in the ranks of where, there are a lot of other schools, even for the talent that is there in South Carolina, taking from there. I don't think they're of the hierarchy in a lot of people's mind, too, in the HBCU ranks. If you go to a high school campus and you ask 20 high school football players, potentially if they had to go to an HBCU, which one are they picking? I don't think South Carolina State is the one that people go, that's number one. Grambling, Southern, Jackson State probably has those rankings. But South Carolina State, they find the players that they can coach and turn into good football players. That's why you never count them out there. But I'm really interested to see what Deshaun Jackson, Delaware State can do.
Yeah, me too. By the way, Trent Dilfer was mentioned by G6 Football 247. He was at a prep academy, I believe. Right? There's Lipscomb Prep Academy.
Don't get me started on Trent Dilfer. Yeah,
he's my guy. He's my guy.
Trent was down there in Nashville, and I forget the name of the school. Somebody may have
it. It was Lipscomb Prep Academy, if I'm not. Yeah,
Lipscomb Academy. He was there for a period of time. Changed laws in Nashville where how you get kids in there. Kids were magically popping up to Lipscomb Academy that didn't belong there. Very confrontational, but it worked with 16 and 17-year-olds. How he talked to them, how he treated them, how he coached them. There's hard coaching and I'm not going to mix words. He was a douche to a lot of high school kids, but he won football games at a private school with a lot of money in a very rich area. He goes to UAB, he tries that stuff, and people realize he's not a great X's and O's guy. He thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and then got completely eviscerated as soon as he left the program. He showed very quickly that he was incapable, but became buddy-buddy with the athletic director there. So the athletic director couldn't fire him. As soon as he left, he was eviscerated by the players that were there. And magically, Alex Mortensen comes over, a guy who actually knows football, has respect of the players, not even that much older than some of the players, can actually coach and manage a football game, and isn't cocky enough to think he's the smartest person in the room, and they start winning football games. It's crazy. So what happens? Lipscomb Academy gets in trouble again because what Trent Dilfer did, he put in place a culture and a belief, and Kevin Mawai, former Jets offensive lineman, takes over as head coach, gets fired after 1 year because, credit to Trent Dilfer, if you're going to break rules, at least be smart about it. Kevin Mawai, not very smart about breaking rules there at Lipscomb Academy, gets fired. Now Trent Dilfer is back at Lipscomb Academy. This will be the highest level he ever hits as a head coach. And there are a lot of, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I know a lot, and I have the cell phone number of a guy named Rush Probst. Trent Dilfer wishes that he was Rush Probst in terms of being able to coach, but he is in terms of how he believes he is the smartest person, the cockiest person.
I'm not so sure, but okay, Trent Dilfer is a smart ass. Bring him on the show. Seems like a good candidate. I'm not sure if that's a knock at us because we can be smart asses. I'm not sure. So I'm a huge Bucs fan. Trent Dilfer, the Bucs were so bad for so long. He was a quarterback that kind of turned under Tony Dungy and all that good stuff. So I love Trent Dilfer as a quarterback in the NFL. I broadcast for Georgia Tech and some A-Sun schools. Well, his daughter, he had 3 daughters. They all played volleyball. One at Notre Dame, one at Louisville, I believe, and one at Lipscomb. Yeah. And I called all 3 of his daughters, and he was in the crowd one day and came over to me and was like, this is Trent Dilfer. This Trent Dilfer's coming over, and he puts his hand on my shoulder and said, "Hey, we watch you all the time. You've been so nice. You said, so many things about our daughters, so nice things. We remember you. My wife's watching it in Nashville at home right now, so I can't trash Trent Dilfer. I'll let you guys do it. I'll let you do it."
The guy that after they lost the game told the fan base, "You're not Alabama. You're UAB."
I know. It wasn't great.
How are you going to tell kids and fans of that program, "Oh, you're not Alabama, so what's your expectation?"
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a jackwag.
I'm not calling him now on the show. Yeah. Maybe is he divorced now? I don't know. Someone says Brandon says his ex-wife. Oh, I don't know.
Listen. I just don't think he's a great person. The way he handles kids and football, I'm not one to worry about his bedroom.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
Ed McCaffrey ain't much better. Yeah, I will say Ed McCaffrey. Once you read the details of what Ed McCaffrey was doing, yeah, not much better.
Yeah. Well, this one took a turn. Boys. All right. Let's go from there. Who do we have next?
You just slide. What I know about the Ed McCaffrey situation, he was starting his son at quarterback.
Yeah.
And everybody looked at him and was like, "Hey, your son is bad."
When he 5'8" or something?
Very good quarterback. And he legitimately looked at them and said, "Yeah, and?" How are you a head coach and you're doing that?
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, it happens in Pop Warner. It happens in, low-level 3A high school football. And I get it. You'd rather lose with your son than win with the neighbor's kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, I did want to mention linebacker Isaiah Lawson for North Carolina Central. He's a stud. He's fun to watch. You can go look at some videos of him. He's a stud for North Carolina Central. He's a guy that can change a defense. He's a leader on that defense. So the MEAC outlook. Let's go move on.
Trey Oliver's also a very good coach there at NCCU.
Yeah, and they should be better than they have been over the last couple of years. Speaking of being better than they should be,
what a segue.
We're going to look over at the OVC. Forget the Big South OVC Alliance. It is now just the OVC. No more of the BS. It's just OVC. UT Martin is the favorite to win there in that conference. Gardner Webb, by the way, They got a new coach, but this is a team that's up and coming. So I want you to pay attention to this because Gardner-Webb they scored a lot of points last year, and they're bringing a lot of offense back. So I think Gardner-Webb is a team to watch. I don't think they have the talent and probably the coaching experience to overtake someone like a UT Martin. I think they're obviously going to be the favorite. Matter of fact, we have their preseason poll because it came out yesterday ahead of their media day. But my dad made me ride the pine. Brandon Haddock, his dad made him sit the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Earn playing.
Yeah. So, anyway, so UT Martin, Gardner-Webb, and the Charleston Southern and Southeastern Missouri have been so bad for too long. These are two storied programs, and I kind of put them off to the side because they shouldn't be in this position, but it's just been like turmoil there at Charleston Southern for so long. And SEMO, I mean, they built this new facility over there. They pump up their program. They've been bad for too long. To me, it's a UT Martin all the way for OVC. Brandon, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think for UT Martin, they need to win this. I mean, I think they should be a cut above, let's say, than everybody else in the conference. I don't know. I don't know if Gardner-Webb is there yet. I think, and this is the problem with UT Martin. You see flashes of them playing really well, beating teams that they, probably, shouldn't beat or contending with them. I mean, and then they go and they play games that they should win and they lose. This is a very roller coaster program, and it's been that way for years. There for Coach Simpson there, and I don't know. I just think talent wise, I think it should be clear cut. UT Martin, this should be one of those no doubters.
Yeah,
but you can't say that just based on the history of UT Martin. This is a program, and Coach, he's not here, but he's here, and
he's here.
Exactly the point. We've said that in the past too. UT Martin should walk away with this, but we can't say with full confidence that they will. But talent-wise, they should run away.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. By the way, Morehead State is not in the OVC. They're just there because I liked their logo, I guess. Lindenwood is a team I think you probably can watch. Let's go ahead and look at the OVC preseason poll, which just came out. UT Martin, Southeast Missouri, picking up a first place vote. I don't know about that. Lindenwood, Gardner-Webb, Charleston Southern, Western Illinois, Eastern Illinois, and Tennessee State. Yeah, I think that's probably the bottom three. Certainly, I think are going to be bad. So we'll see how it goes. But UT Martin running away with the OVC poll. That's interesting. And it's funny because sometimes these preseason polls, they literally send out a blast email to anyone in media, the SIDs from all the schools, local media or whatever, and all these people get to vote? Or is it a coach's poll? You never really know. Usually the media day, the preseason is a bunch of the media poll, and it's a bunch of college kids for the most part. But, we'll see.
The preseason poll is very, very questionable who they let vote. I've known many people who have voted in, the SEC poll, preseason poll at media days, and put Vanderbilt, with first place, just so they think it's funny that there's one in the parentheses around Vanderbilt and things like that.
Yeah. There's your preseason poll for the OVC. As we're going to move on to the
like 8 people voting in a poll, which means that they send it out to the coaches or somebody related to each school.
Yeah. Who knows? Let's see if there's any teams that aren't in this one or are in this one that shouldn't be. Patriot League's got a new look. Villanova and William & Mary joining. Lehigh is the darling of the Patriot League, Brandon. And obviously, we know what they do, but there's some changes over there, too, with the coaching staff. And Luke Yoder is the big piece that's coming back for them. Of course, what Villanova's doing, and Mark Ferrante, the head coach there, expects to compete very quickly there with Jabril Mace and there at running back, as well as Isaiah Ragland. They're kind of 1-2 punch. William & Mary's an interesting piece to this because they're jumping in. And Mike London, William & Mary has kind of been irrelevant in the last couple of years. And if they don't pick it up in a new conference where they really should compete, I think he's probably going to be on the hot seat. Richmond, huge disappointment. Colgate has done some good recruiting. I wouldn't be surprised if they upset a couple people. Holy Cross, a historically good program, but just kind of been lingering around. Bucknell, And then you got Georgetown and Fordham, not really doing a whole lot the last couple of years. Your thoughts here on the Patriot League? It's new look. What can Villanova do? What do you think about Lehigh and all that jazz?
Yeah, I've said first. Let me start with William & Mary. I've said it since 2023. Mike London there has just been, even back to the 2022 season, and legitimately had to pull it up. 11-2, you lose in the quarterfinal. You were a top 10 seed.
Yeah.
There, and then just disappointing 6-5, 7-5, 7-5 for Mike London. I mean, this was a guy that was on his way. Howard, William & Mary was going to take the next step and was destined to be an FBS head coach. I mean, a lot of people. He was one of those guys that Maryland. He came from the Maryland pipeline. He coached at Maryland. Expected him to go back there probably. That was kind of like one of the things of, okay, Maryland potentially, Mike Loxley wasn't going to work out there for a period of time. There, does he bring in a guy like Mike London to be the defensive coordinator? That was what we were hearing for a while there, and never left. And it's just been very mediocre there at William & Mary. But to your point, you move to the Patriot League. Listen, you could lose 4 conference games here. You can lose 5 conference games if you're William & Mary. It's relatively easy there. I think, this could be a very pivotal point for Mike London and William & Mary if they are motivated. Holy Cross, they lost a lot when Bob Chesney left and went to James Madison. They lost depth. They lost starters. They lost ball boys probably. They may even lost some footballs out of it. And to the point, I saw one of the comments said "Holy Cross" for Brandon Haddock said it. I fully expect Coach Curran over there to have them playing better after taking a little bit of a step back. I think Lehigh and Villanova are the two favorites in there, but can Holy Cross be that third there? I saw also what happened to Richmond from Stephen McKenzie. Anybody shocked Richmond falling off? They were one of the programs too that they were on the cusp of. Okay, there will be a perennial team we talk about with the playoffs there, and in this era, they expect them to take the next step. I mean, maybe it is the Mike London effect there. After leaving there when he went to Virginia, but I don't know necessarily if Richmond will be able to make that turn in there, but I expect a team like Holy Cross could be the third or fourth best team in there. So I think this could be very interesting in terms of when we talk about playoff picture there, because everybody gets one. But this could be a team with 2 to 3 teams after that. You look and you go, okay, is the second team out of the Patriot League, the third team out of the Patriot League, better than the 4th or 5th team out of the Big Sky, out of the Missouri Valley? And I think there could be a case. Like, listen, if William & Mary plays really well, and Mike London has the best season that he's had at William & Mary, and they're the second place team behind Lehigh, and Villanova's right on their heels, I don't see how you deny a Villanova a shot at the playoffs, because they perennially play well. They would have the resume there as well. So I don't know how it will play out in the future, but I think these are 4 potentially good teams in the Patriot League this year.
Yeah, it's interesting, and Richmond not being interesting. All right, Brandon, we're gonna save the rest. Been going 53 minutes. We're gonna save the rest for another time. We're gonna have outlooks for each conference for the season, for each conference coming up before the season. Of course, we'll get to those media days and cover those.
I'm sorry, my treadmill for rent took up too much time.
No, I love it. It's the best part of the show. Obviously,
we'll put it on our social medias.
That and Steve McKenzie telling me when to move the slides forward because I keep forgetting. Here we go. All right, we're going to have a big question of the day. And this one is, what is the biggest element that sidelines a team season? I put some options down there with injuries, poor coaching, lack of depth, mental toughness, discipline, and focus. Brandon, we've seen injuries sideline a team, even a preseason injury to a quarterback. It gives an opportunity to other teams. But at the FCS level, you're talking about very, very, what would you say, thin depth of talent, and when a starting quarterback goes down or running back goes down, it can change things. But also you've got lack of depth that we've talked about. Mark Ferrante talked about they're trying to get to 93 players as they did before when they were in the CAA. They moved over to the Patriot, and trying to have, they don't have these 130 man rosters like they used to in some of these teams. And then you've got mental toughness, generational, discipline, and focus. If you had to just kind of analyze this, what would you say the biggest element? These teams going into these preseason camps, what do they have to avoid? What do they have to establish to avoid an issue that sidelines them for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think there are factors in all of them. Fran Brown and this is kind of going to lead me into my point. Fran Brown, the head coach at Syracuse, said it during ACC Media Days a couple of days ago. They asked him, what did he learn? Biggest lesson he learned: supposed to have a great season, lose their quarterback, and I think they lose their last 5 games in a row. And he said having a backup quarterback. That's on him. And the injuries, they lose their starter and Jelly. Ricky Collins did not pan out for there, but that's also on coaching. If you're a good head coach, you should be able to get your team or be flexible or malleable enough to be able to get your backup quarterback to a position where you can be successful. All my criticism of South Dakota State, they got their backup quarterback. Now it was the third quarterback who was a true freshman, I believe. I think he was like 16 years old playing quarterback. And it got them to a point of, okay, you can do some things. Let's do those things and try to win games with you. But I think ultimately it all boils down to lack of depth. Because if you have lack of depth there, you're not practicing as well. You're so worried about the guys, the offensive line. Let's say you're not deep on the offensive line. Let's say you have 6 offensive linemen that you trust. You're so worried about losing one of those guys in quote unquote meaningless practice, or when it doesn't count in practice, that, okay, we're going to go light. We're not going to do this in practice because we don't have the depth. If somebody twists the knee in practice or rolls an ankle in practice, that they can't play on Saturday. If we have to worry about receivers the same way, running backs, both sides of the ball, if you don't have the depth there, you can't practice the way you want to practice. Also, if you have the lack of depth there, your practice, your twos, or your scout team isn't as good.
Right.
And they just can't do things. I've seen, a lot of different programs with my own eyes go, okay, there's let's say a running quarterback, and maybe they have a good arm. Nick Marshall at Auburn is one that brings me to mind. Not necessarily a great quarterback, but very prolific runner, pretty good arm. There were some teams that, okay, on this play, we're going to have the third string corner be Nick Marshall so he can run, but we're going to have to, after the next play, we'll try to replicate that with our third string quarterback, but he's going to be the one throwing the ball in that. That's tough. If you don't have good depth where you don't have guys that can replicate and fill out the scout team very well, and I've known programs that their scout team were guys who were expected to contribute. So they're practicing scout teams for like the first 7 periods or 5 periods or so, and then they have to go in and take actual reps with the ones because they're expected to potentially perform on Saturday. So I think, depth is a problem. And, to Colby's point, however you get it, NIL.
Yeah.
You can get more depth if you have more NIL. And that's just the nature of the beast there. But yeah, I think, all these other things, mental toughness. Every one of these kids that plays college football has been in a situation where they've been down in the fourth quarter. I would be shocked if you show me one kid that's played high school football. It's like, I've never trailed in the second half of a football game. The mental toughness is there. Now, can they take some hard coaching? I don't know. That's a generational thing. I firmly believe those who can adapt can still coach tough. Those who garner the respect of a lot of these players can still coach tough. And we've talked to coaches about this on this very podcast about, how they coach in today's era with social media and the fact that, clips are on demand. And I've also talked to high school coaches about this in the state of Georgia. And it's just, you have to allow these kids to be the kids and have the technology and then earn their respect and know that, hey, I know what I'm talking about. And you have information too that we can have these discourse of. It's not just I say, you do. We can actually have discourse about these things and still get to a point. So I think, mental toughness is always there. I think if you lack mental toughness, I don't think those players are on the roster. Let's just leave it that way. Discipline and focus, that's a huge one too. But I think that also goes down to poor coaching.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart has a lot of players who lack discipline and focus at times, especially when they're driving through Athens, about 20,
Quickly.
30 miles. Yeah, speed limit there. But, they go into that program, they go into that building, and they are focused on whatever they need to focus on. They are disciplined enough to know, hey, that, unless it could be far worse than speeding, and we've seen it. We've seen the worst end of that, and
absolutely.
It is always unfortunate, and Georgia went through that firsthand, where people end up losing their lives. But a good coach finds a way to keep the focus on the football game, and as trivial and as stupid as that potentially could be at times, it is a testament to where you're able to do that. So I think that it all boils down to lack of depth is a huge thing, but all these other things, injuries just happen, boils down to the coaching. Good coaches can overcome mental toughness, discipline, and focus. But you can't stop injuries. You can't control the injuries. But I think ultimately, if you tell every head coach, hey, you got 4 offensive linemen that you trust, and if one of them goes down, your season's over. That will be the undoing of their season.
And it kind of goes back to the coaches that we know. We talk about Mark Ferrante, who's been at Villanova for almost 40 years, either as the head coach, I think for 10, and in the background before that, and Brent Vegan. We know the names. Kevin Cahill. We're now starting about Cody Hawkins. They find ways to find players that fit what they need. And Coach Jackson, I think, said something about 2 jackasses is can spoil a team. I really think it's a problem. So poor coaching. I mean, I think you start to see some of these guys that come in, and we've interviewed coaches. At the end of those interviews, we're thinking, Scotty Waldron was not one of them, by the way. A coach that came in, and we immediately said, whoa, something special about that guy. So I think coaching, in my opinion, and you did a great job talking about kind of each one of those, but for me, FCS level, you're gonna lack depth of talent, but those coaches find ways to draw out the best. We saw it with Brian Bohannon at Kennesaw State. We might see it with John Gross here this year. Good football coach. We'll see what happens. Can we interview my new wife? I don't know if she'll come on the show, especially after what you said about Trent Dilfer.
Here's the funny thing, though. Like, we've seen, good coaches, they empower their locker room to where, to coach's point, you can have 2 jackasses in that locker room, and they will be handled by the 80 other guys in there and be like, you know what? Yeah, I get it. You're not happy. I get it. This, that, and the other, but shut up.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. Like, good coaching is putting your players in the environment that they can police a locker room. And locker rooms are a strange place. I mean, you get a lot of different people with a lot of different feelings on a lot of different topics that have to come together for a common goal. And of course, there's going to be a lot of different feelings that have to be managed, but there are always 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 guys that go in there and they, I would say, transcend everything. I mean, I've had the pleasure, and listen, I'm wearing a Florida State shirt. I got very few nice things to say about the University of Florida. I've had the pleasure of talking to Tim Tebow multiple times. That dude
name drop
transcends everything. Dude is just, you just look at him, and the first time I ever met him was at the Georgia Dome. This is how long ago it was. It was
the Georgia Dome.
And he was calling a football game, and we had a conversation waiting for Chick-fil-A to come out to give us Chick-fil-A. And literally at the end of that conversation, I would have ran through a wall for that man. And we are just talking about a football game that we broadcasting.
Yeah.
We have no say in the factor of the game. That's one of the people that transcends. Good coaches find those kids. And they may not be the starting quarterback. That's the funny thing, too. I know a lot of guys who were like QB3 that were the mayors of the locker room. They were the judge and jury of the locker room.
Yeah. By the way, Brandon Haddock says, can we find a good recommendation? I was kind of going through the UAC, and I was shocked that Brent Dearman's still there. North Alabama. Shocked.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's selling something. They're putting money in that program. They probably don't want to make a change if they don't need to, and unless the right coach comes available. So we shall see. Chat, you guys have been awesome. We're going to leave it there. We've been going for over an hour. It does help if you subscribe and like to the channel. It's completely free. We don't send out your information to anybody. It's just, it notifies you that when we go live, because we kind of go through, some different times when we can go live as a team. So we try to make that easier. You can subscribe, like to the channel. That sends us a message that, hey, you are, enjoying the content. If you're watching this in replay, again, leave a comment. We go back through and watch through, look through those comments and try and tailor the show to the folks that kind of make it happen. So, and that's the fan base.
Said that I need to switch out this shirt for a West Florida shirt. Let me be 100% clear. Do you think I paid for this shirt?
Yeah.
I will wear anything that comes to my house for free.
Yeah.
I will wear. There are people in Brookings who think I hate them. If South Dakota State swag showed up to my house, I'd be on here with a hoodie, a hat. I mean, I don't think payola or plugola applies to us. We're not actually
I don't think it does.
Broadcast media. Yeah. If it's free and it shows up to my house, I will wear a North Alabama shirt.
I got a Northwood College thing in the mail last year.
Passing Academy hoodie if it showed up to my house.
How about a Brent? Did you say Trent Dilfer?
Yeah,
quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd wear a Trent Dilfer shirt. It'd be
Absolutely.
funny, and I'd still rail him on the show while wearing his apparel.
Classic. Guys, you've been awesome. Listen, we're planning to go on next week, next Friday, around the same time. We'll have to get with Coach. He's going to be on the road for the wedding, so God knows what that's going to be But
everybody's getting married on the show. Coach is not getting married. He's already married.
Yeah, he's always been very happily married, but his son, hey, Rhino, by the way, congratulations, Coach Jackson. Rhino, fantastic. All the best to you. Hope the wedding goes well. Coach, you did a fantastic job on the video. It was I was shocked how good it was, honestly.
Yeah. He has talent and he doesn't tell us.
I know. I can't figure it out. But
my wedding anniversary is tomorrow, so.
Is that right? Well, happy anniversary. I did not know that. So July. Okay, cool. July 8th will be mine, so I'm very excited about it. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you guys so much for the chat. Seriously, you guys have been fantastic. G6FB247, great to have you aboard. Steve McKenzie, Brandon Haddock, as always. Coach Jackson, thanks for joining us from afar. Kobe Kluth, all the rest. I go through, say hello. Thank you guys again. Leave a comment if you got any questions or thoughts or something you want to see on the show. That's always helpful. But for now, Brandon, have a great weekend. Chat, have a great weekend. We will see you next week. This has been the FCS Checkdown. For Brandon Joseph, I'm Nathan McCreary. Song, everybody.